I've walked down this street 1,000 times, and every time I see a Harley-Davidson store, I feel a strange mix of nostalgia and pity. It's like seeing an old rock star who refuses to admit the concert is over. The lights are on, the products are perfectly lined up, but there's no one inside. It's a silent museum of a rebellion that was sold off in easy installments. 10, maybe 15 years ago, you couldn't take 2 steps without seeing someone wearing a Harley t-shirt. It was a symbol, a secret code that said, "I'm free, I'm a little dangerous, but I have good credit." Today, seeing that logo feels almost anachronistic, like finding a video rental store still open. The brand has gone from being everywhere to being a ghost roaming the highways of its own past glory. What's happening to Harley-Davidson isn't just a bump in the road. It's a slow-motion collapse, a perfect storm of marketing mistakes, demographic blindness, and an arrogance that only legends can afford. In the last decade, their sales in the United States, their main market, have plummeted by more than 20%. Its stock, which was once the pride of Wall Street, now looks like the EKG of a patient in critical condition. In 2018, they announced the closure of their Kansas City plant, a symbolic blow that hurt more than the numbers. This isn't a crisis, it's a hemorrhage. But how did we get here? How did a brand that once represented untamable freedom become the official motorcycle of the midlife crisis? The answer isn't simple. There's not just one culprit, but rather a conspiracy of 5 deadly sins that the company itself committed, one after another, with almost poetic precision. And today we're going to unravel each one of them, because the fall of Harley-Davidson is much more than the story of a motorcycle company. It's a brutal lesson about what happens when a brand falls so in love with its own reflection that it fails to notice the world around it has changed forever. Stick around, because this is a real-time marketing autopsy. The first nail in the coffin, and perhaps the deepest, is Harley's original sin, the demographic trap. Harley-Davidson wasn't selling motorcycles, it was selling a dream packaged for a very specific generation, the baby boomers. Born after World War II, they grew up with rock and roll, the Vietnam War, and a spirit of counterculture. When they reached middle age with money in their pockets and their youth slipping away, Harley offered them the perfect solution, a loud chrome-plated machine to recapture that rebellious spark lost between mortgages and parent-teacher meetings. And it worked. Boy, did it work. For decades, they dominated the market because they understood their customer perfectly. The problem is that their perfect customers started to get older. The average age of a new Harley-Davidson buyer today is over 50, and what's even more telling, the fastest-growing vehicle category for the brand is tricycles. Yes, you heard that right. Their most loyal customers are getting so old that they can no longer keep their balance on 2 wheels. Harley became your parents' favorite rock band. They're still legendary, but everyone at the concert needs to sit down, and the show ends at 9 at night. They focused so much on squeezing every last dollar out of wealthy boomers that they completely forgot to plant seeds for the future. They didn't create a succession plan, they didn't build a bridge to the next generation. They simply assumed that rebellion was hereditary, but they were wrong. And that demographic myopia left them trapped on a slowly sinking island while the rest of the world sailed toward new horizons. Knowing that their audience was becoming an endangered species, they tried to react, and that brings us directly to the second sin. An identity crisis so deep that not even the most expensive psychologist could solve it. What is Harley-Davidson? Is it the brand of the Hells Angels, of Outlaws, and of Easy Rider? Or is it the brand for the suburban dentist who puts on leather chaps on Sundays to feel alive before going back to his practice on Monday? For years, Harley tried to be both things at once, and the result was a schizophrenic disaster. The brand that was once an authentic symbol of counterculture turned into a weekend costume. They started selling everything: t-shirts, coffee mugs, perfumes, baby clothes. At one point, merchandise and licensing sales made up a huge part of their revenue. They diluted their own legend until it became a caricature. The problem is that new generations, especially millennials and Gen Z, have a built-in fake detector. They can smell a lack of authenticity from miles away. Seeing an account executive with a $40,000 motorcycle and a brand new leather jacket doesn't inspire rebellion in them. It inspires a bit of second-hand embarrassment. It's like Che Guevara ending his career selling pension plans. The logo is still there, but the spirit has gone on permanent vacation to Cancun. This duality created a broken brand promise. I sell you the image of a rebel, but my real client is the embodiment of conformity. And in 21st century marketing, that contradiction is fatal. This identity confusion led them to make monumental mistakes in their product strategy, which brings us to the third sin. Diving headfirst into the innovator's dilemma, but in a shinier and noisier version. The concept of the innovator's dilemma, popularized by Clayton Christensen, describes how successful companies fail because they keep listening exclusively to their best customers. Their current customers, the boomers, kept asking for more of the same. Bigger engines, more chrome, more noise, more accessories. And Harley blindly obeyed. The result was an incredibly complex and expensive product catalog. Go to their website and you'll find 37 different models that to a newcomer all look like exactly the same bike with varying levels of paraphernalia. When they finally tried to truly innovate, they did it in the worst way possible. They launched the Livewire, their first electric motorcycle. On paper, a bold idea. In practice, a resounding failure. They set the price at nearly $30,000, an absurd amount for a young market that wasn't willing to pay the price of a car for an electric motorcycle with limited range. Trying to sell a silent electric motorcycle to a traditional Harley fan is like trying to sell a tofu salad to a lion. Technically, it's food, but they're going to look at you with a disappointment that will break your heart. And for the new audience they wanted to attract, the price was an insurmountable barrier. They failed on both fronts. They refused to create simpler, more affordable and more accessible products that could serve as a gateway for new riders because they were too busy adding another layer of chrome for their usual customers. And this inability to create relevant products for a new audience leads us straight to the fourth sin, perhaps the saddest of all, the lost generation. Harley-Davidson never learned to speak the language of millennials and Generation Z. While the world was moving toward the experience economy, sustainability and digital community, Harley kept selling an ideal of solitary individualism, of the lone wolf on the road. But young people today don't want to be lone wolves. They want to belong to a pack. They value shared experiences over material possessions. They'd rather spend $1,000 on a trip with friends than save up for the down payment on a motorcycle that will isolate them. Their marketing remained stuck in the 70s. Ads with tough men, full beards, staring into the distance with a grim look. A message that feels as foreign to a 25-year-old as a telegram. Harley spoke to millennials in the only language they don't understand. 30-year mortgages to buy something your neighbors will admire. Millennials would rather spend that money traveling and taking pictures of their avocado toast. The customer acquisition cost to attract a young buyer must have been astronomical and clearly ineffective. They didn't understand that for these generations, freedom isn't an empty highway, but the flexibility to work from anywhere. It's not the roar of a V-twin engine, but the silence of noise-canceling headphones. They completely ignored the cultural shift, and in turn, the new generations ignored them. Finally, we come to the fifth and last sin, the one that perhaps accelerated the whole process of decay, corporate cannibalism. When the external problems became evident, Harley-Davidson's internal response was chaos. The last decade has been a carousel of changes in leadership. Each new CEO arrived with a miraculous rescue plan up their sleeve, only to be replaced a few years later by another savior with a completely different strategy. They went through plans like Rewire and Hardwire, flashy names that in practice only created more confusion and alienated one of the key pieces of their ecosystem, their dealer network. These dealerships, which had been loyal family businesses to the brand for generations, suddenly found themselves caught between the headquarters' contradictory directives and the reality of a shrinking market. They were asked to invest millions in renovating their stores to attract a younger audience that never showed up, while at the same time having their most affordable models, those that could have served as a hook, cut from their lineup. Harley's management over the past decade has changed direction more times than a GPS inside a tunnel. Each new leader arrived with a different roadmap without realizing the car no longer had wheels. This lack of long-term vision and strategic consistency created an internal civil war that weakened the brand from within, making any serious attempt at recovery impossible. A house divided, as they say, cannot stand. So here we are, looking at the remains of an empire, a brand trapped between the past that made it great and a future it doesn't understand. The story of Harley-Davidson is a Greek tragedy with the scent of gasoline and leather. It's a lesson about how success can become the seed of your own destruction if you don't have the humility to adapt. But is this really the definitive end? Can a brand so deeply rooted in American culture really die? Or is it simply in an induced coma, waiting for the right leader and the right idea to roar back to life? What would you do if you had the keys to the Milwaukee factory? I'd love to read your ideas in the comments. And speaking of American giants that lost their way by failing to understand new generations, Harley's story has an unsettling echo in that of another closet legend. If you think the motorcycle drama is a marketing disaster, just wait until you see how jeans, which practically built America's image, almost self-destructed trying to be cool for everyone and no one at the same time. It's a masterclass on the dangers of betraying your own identity. I'll leave that video right here for you. It's absolutely worth watching.